contributing. We are so pleased you have joined us for worship this morning. Our spiritual theme for the month of May is thresholds. Whether you are joining us today for the first time or you've been a member since this congregation's early days, you are welcome with us. Whatever the faiths you have known, if any, or whatever your heritage, you are welcome with us. Whoever you love and however you identify, you are welcome with us. However you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome with us. I have a few announcements I would like to share before we begin. Reverend Sarah is away this morning celebrating Mother's Day with her family, so we hope she has a wonderful weekend. And I'm grateful to be with my mother, finally, in Los Osos, California this morning. After the service today, I invite you to stay online for coffee hour. There's also an Inquirer Series class for newcomers, and there's an info session hosted by the board with a Q&A about our upcoming congregational meeting. And I'll give you instructions at the end of the service for how to sort yourselves into those different places on Zoom. So just stay tuned at the end. Our congregational meeting will be held next Sunday, May 17th, after our Zoom worship. So next Sunday, stay online for that. Our plate partner for the month of May is the Women's and Children's Alliance that works to foster a community where individuals thrive in safe, healthy relationships. So a portion of our offerings for all of the month of May go to support this very important organization. Today, in honor of Mother's Day, we invited Deborah Smith, Casey O'Connor, and Emmy Schlobohm to share with us a service that they first created a year ago for the Magic Valley UU Fellowship around their shared experience of caring for their aging mothers. These three women all participate in a Daughterhood circle, where with other women who are caregivers for their aging parents, they support each other in the challenges, the healing, and the joys of role reversal when they are called upon to care for their parents. Since this service was first created, Emmy's and Casey's mothers have both passed on, and they all have new insights about their experiences of daughterhood. On this day, we recognize the enormous gift that mothers bring to the world by giving birth to and nurturing each new generation. We remember our own mothers. We pause and let ourselves receive gratitude if we are mothers. And we also recognize and mourn where our experience growing up was absent of what we hoped for from our mothers. We celebrate the ways all humans step in and offer nurturing, creating strong bonds beyond biological family and beyond the expectations of gender. To the nurturing instinct in all of us, we offer gratitude this morning. And to all of our ancestral mothers stretching back far beyond our historical knowledge, we offer honor and gratitude as well. Please sit back and enjoy our centering music, Another Door, performed by Michelle Coleman.
This is all that I've ever known, and all I'll ever need, and I'll always need. There's a wind that blows right through the living room, and it opens up the doors I carefully closed so long ago. There you are. There you go. There's a child and he needs all the world to be. Reaches out a tiny hand, and I see there's another door, there's another door, there's another door, there's another door, there's another door. And there you are. There you are. There you are.
Each week, we light our flaming chalice, a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We join in this lighting in solidarity and community with hundreds of other Unitarian Universalists, lighting chalices today in homes and in virtual worship services, reminding us that we are connected to one another and to a larger community of faith and love. If you have a chalice nearby, we invite you to light it with us, and if you are able, hold it up to your camera and switch to gallery view to see all of the chalices being lit today. Then you're invited to share in the chat. The chalice is lit on whatever street you live on. Our chalice lighting words today are from George Kimmich Beach. We wait in these moments of stillness to let the hidden processes of healing and growth do their silent work within us, and to let the quiet work of reconciliation be renewed among us. Because we know that the ultimate issues of life, healing and growth, reconciliation and renewal, cannot be forced, neither by excess of activity nor by tumult of words. We seek out this stillness. We seek the quiet, the resting place of our restless hearts. Because we live with mystery, we trust that which is deeper than we know, which touches our hearts, which steadies us and rekindles our spirits, which finally, in faith, may be named the love that has laid hold upon us and will not let us go. We light this chalice, symbol of the flame that lights each step of our journey towards wholeness, towards reconciliation, towards the love that will not let us go. Come, let us worship together.
I invite our children to move a little closer to your screens for our time for all ages this morning. We're going to tell a story using our Wonder Board, which will help us ask questions about what we learn. First up on our Wonder Board this morning is he's upside down. A paper chain made out of felt today. This paper chain is moles holding hands. I wonder, has anyone taught you how to make a paper chain? And how did you feel when your paper chain finally worked out? Who taught you how to make the cuts so that each part is connected? If you haven't learned how to make a paper chain yet, has anyone taught you something that you kept practicing until you got really good at it, or at least better? For me, my mom taught me how to make felt animals and how to embroider, which she learned from her mom. This is a special thing that I'm able to do. Our story this morning is Badger's Parting Gifts. We don't begin with the paper chain, though. We begin with Badger. Badger was dependable, reliable, and always ready to help when help was needed. He was also very old, and he knew almost everything. Badger was so old that he knew that he must die soon. Badger wasn't afraid of death. Dying meant only that he would leave his body behind, and as his body wasn't working out as well as it had in the days gone by, Badger wasn't too concerned about that. His only worry was how his friends would feel when he was gone. Hoping to prepare them, Badger told them that someday soon he would be going down the long tunnel, and he hoped they wouldn't be too sad when it happened. One day, Badger was watching his friends, Frog and Mole, racing down a hillside. And he felt especially old and tired. He wished more than anything that he could run with them, but he knew his legs wouldn't let him. He watched Frog and Mole for a long time, enjoying the sight of his friends having a good time. And it was late when he finally got home. He wished the moon good night and closed the curtains from the cold world outside. He made his way slowly down to the warm fire that was waiting for him deep underground. He had his supper and then sat down at his desk to write a letter. When he was finished, he settled down in his rocking chair near the fire. He gently rocked himself to and fro and was soon fast asleep, having a strange yet wonderful dream like none he'd ever had before. Much to Badger's surprise, he was running. Ahead of him was a very long tunnel. His legs felt strong and sure as he ran towards it. He no longer needed his walking stick, so he left it lying on the floor of the tunnel. Badger moved swiftly, running faster and faster through the long passageway, until his paws no longer touched the earth. He felt himself turning end over end, tumbling and falling, but nothing hurt. He felt free. It was as if he had fallen out of his body. The following day, Badger's friends gathered anxiously outside. I should show. His friends like Rabbit and Fox, and his friends Mole and Frog. They were worried because Badger hadn't come outside to say good morning like he usually does. Like he always did. Fox went inside and broke the sad news that Badger was dead. And he read Badger's note to them. It simply said, "Gone down the long tunnel. Bye-bye, Badger." All the animals had loved Badger, and everyone felt very sad. Mole, especially, was feeling lost and alone and desperately unhappy. In bed that night, Mole could only think of Badger. Tears rolled down his velvety nose, soaking the blankets that he clung to for comfort. Outside, it began to snow. Winter had begun, and soon a thick layer of snow hid the animals' homes, where they would stay snug and warm during the cold months. Snow covered the countryside, but didn't conceal the sadness that Badger's friends all felt. Badger had always been there when anyone needed him. The animals all wondered what they would do now that he was gone. Badger had told them not to be unhappy, but that was hard not to be. And then spring drew near. The animals visited each other often and talked about the days when Badger was alive. Mole was very good at using scissors, and he told them about the time that Badger taught him how to cut a chain of moles out of paper. Paper moles had littered the ground that day. Mole remembered the joy he felt when he finally succeeded in making a complete chain with all the paws joined. Frog was an excellent skater, and he recalled how Badger had helped him take his first slippery steps across the ice. Badger had guided him gently across the ice until he gained enough of his own confidence to glide out on his own. Fox remembered when she was a young cub, she could never tie her tie properly until Badger showed her. Start with the wide end of the tie. It's right over left, once around to the back, up then down through the crossover, and hold the back of the tie, push the knot all the way to the neck. Fox could now tie every tie, any knot ever invented, and she'd even made up her own knots. Her own tie, of course, was always perfectly knotted. Badger had given Mrs. Rabbit his special recipe for gingerbread and showed her how to roll out her gingerbread to just the right thickness so she could make gingerbread rabbits. Mrs. Rabbit was well known throughout the countryside for her excellent cooking. And as she talked about her first cooking lesson with Badger so long ago, she could almost smell the wonderful fragrance of the gingerbread fresh from the oven. Each of the animals had a special memory of Badger, something he had taught them that they could now do extremely well. He had given them something to treasure, a parting gift that would become all the more special each time it was passed on to others. As the last snow melted, so did the animals' sadness. Whenever Badger was mentioned, someone remembered another story that made them all smile. One warm spring day, as Mole was walking on the hillside where he'd last seen Badger, he wanted to thank his friend for his parting gift. "Thank you, Badger," he said softly, believing that Badger would hear him. And somehow, Badger did. I wonder, do you understand how the animals felt after Badger died? Have you lost someone who was very special to you? And if so, can you remember any gifts that that person left you? How does remembering those gifts comfort you now that the person is no longer here? Each of the animals had a special memory of their friend Badger, remembering the ways they felt deeply cared for by him. I wonder what's something that makes you feel cared for? A long hug, a listening ear, a special blanket or drink? Who can you turn to when you need some help? Can you think of any gifts that you might give to others someday? Your own listening ear, your own helping hand, or your own kind word? How can you make other people feel cared for? This morning, our children are invited to join me in our children's chapel, a Zoom room set up specifically for the interactive worship for preschool and elementary age children. We will sing our children's recessional, words are going to appear on your screen, along with a meeting ID, which I'm going to post in the chat as well.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
My mom was such a pistol. She lived to 87, mostly on her terms until the last stretch. She was fiercely independent. Montana born and raised by Canadian immigrants. At 16, she went alone by train from Montana to boarding school in Chicago. Around 40, she qualified for Mensa after missing an hour of the exam to get my sister at school. Old age was perhaps Mom's greatest challenge, because it forced conforming and much sacrifice of agency to have safety in a care facility. Poet Joe Fabio writes of elder care, "For the most part, senior citizens live in the margins of life. Most, you see, are not fully involved. They are paid courtesy visits, if they are fortunate, and are more or less gently brushed aside from social interaction. It is not intentional or crude or thoughtless. It's merely a fact of life." Including Mom in mainstream life got tough. She needed stuff: wheelchair, walker, toilet riser, fresh clothes, blankets. She became antsy outside of familiar surroundings with predictable restrooms or memorized floor plans. Anxiety became a nemesis as her senses failed to keep her upright and attuned. Family and friends drifted as Mom dug in and declined invitations that would draw her outside, into the dark or the bright sunlight, inclement weather or the possibility of it, new places or old ones where trees and buildings had grown up. Sometimes visits were welcome, and sometimes particularly challenging. Following conversations with multiple people was increasingly exhausting for her. Not finding the right words within the flow unnerved this Mensa member with a high school career in teaching. Frequently, Mom and I planned outings that she'd cancel. 2 week, anticipatory anxiety, pain, or she just forgot. Our best visits eventually included reading to her, or her retelling oft-repeated memory fragments that she pieced into rewritten narratives that worked for her. Macular degeneration stole her hobbies: bridge club, reading, sewing, restaurants, leisurely baths. Emotions became hair-triggered. So the question became how to lovingly attune to my declining mom, balancing each day with justice, equity, and compassion. Is unconditional love unbounded? Are limits necessary or helpful? I needed a recipe. I'm a flowchart by nature, and Mom became a scattergram. One thing was apparent: the strengths and challenges of relationships are fully exposed in the end-of-life processes. For me, the second UU principle of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations is both comforting and daunting. I recommend a book by Dr. Atul Gawande entitled Being Mortal. Its practicality reassured me, especially with Mom's informal diagnosis of the dwindles. Chronic conditions, but nothing acute or imminently life-threatening. And interestingly, Mom actually looked forward to the next great adventure. So conversations on death were comfortable. Our psychic energy was consumed by tackling daily details. My younger brother, sister, and I have long struggled with having little in common except our mother. Gratefully, we did agree on her care. As a retired counselor, I feel I have a decent handle on personal boundaries. But with Mom and my siblings, I often questioned whether my personal limits were just or kind. My sister might say no, probably a reflection of the differences in the way we were raised, and the way John and I raised our kids. My sister is single with no children. We embraced a modern American model where families grow through stages similarly to individuals. Mom, my siblings, and I are now extended family, not nuclear. John and I, in fact, are reverting to a nuclear family of 2, as our children differentiate into their nuclear families. We love being close, and we'll always be their parents. They don't need parenting or advice anymore. Mom was on her own for almost 40 years after our dad died. I believe his death left my brother and sister in tender developmental stages that disrupted their differentiation processes. I was the oldest and already married when he died. So the poignancy of Mom's decline became the art of balancing her physical and financial needs with her autonomy and independent nature. My personal and extended family needs with Mom's loneliness and isolation. Mom's decades of grief at losing Dad with celebrations and milestones of our growing families. Emotions and expectations of my siblings with my own boundaries. Daily care challenges with sweet, fading memories and mutually enjoyable interactions with Mom. I believe self-care is not selfish. Mom relaxed when I managed myself to sensitively pivot with her shifting states and surprises. Limits with family members mostly kept me in right relationships. I deeply cherish my Daughterhood support group and the love of close friends and family. This is a component of our second principle, that self-care is just, equitable, and compassionate, even when it feels counterintuitive. The point when I am most likely to become irritable is neglecting self. When balanced and mindful, I joyfully juggle the needs of those I love, from toddlers up. "'Tis Our Journey Together" by poet Deborah Hafner captures this. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to better ourselves, a journey to better the world, a journey to a more promised land.
Now it's time for our morning offering. We are so grateful for all the ways that you support this fellowship and your commitment to the work that we can only do together with our generosity and our time. As we stand at the threshold of an ever-evolving world, we remember what it is from the past that we want to bring into the future. This community will last far beyond us, always doing the work of healing, justice, and compassion in the world. Let us give this morning for our future. We are accepting donations online. We invite you to go to our website, listed on the slide, where you will see the Give button highlighted here in the yellow heart. 25% of our Sunday offering this morning will go to the Women's and Children's Alliance. If you would like to donate 100% of your offering to the Women's and Children's Alliance, put the amount into the special contribution category and write Plate Partner or WCA in the blank field next to the amount. Our offering this morning, our offertory this morning is Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton, performed by Jem and Will.
Back through the years I go wandering once again, back through the seasons of my youth. I recall a box of rags someone gave us, and how my mama put the rags to use. They were rags in many colors, and every piece was small. I didn't have a coat, it was way down in the fall. Mama sewed the rags together, sewing every piece with love. She made my coat in many colors that I was so proud of. As she sewed, she told a story from the Bible she had read, about a coat of many colors Joseph wore, and then she said, perhaps this coat will bring you good luck and happiness. And I just couldn't wait to wear it. Mama blessed it with a kiss. My coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, well, I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me. So with patches on my breeches and holes in both my shoes, in my coat of many colors I hurried off to school, just to find the others laughing and making fun of me in my coat of many colors my mama made for me. And I couldn't understand it, for I felt I was rich, and I told them all to love my mama sewed in every stitch. And I told them all the story mama told me while she sewed, and how my coat of many colors is worth more than all their clothes. But they didn't understand it, and I tried to make them see that one is only poor only if they choose to be. I know we had no money, but I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me, made just for me.
Greetings from Northern Washington State. Oops. Author and theologian Richard Rohr describes liminal space as where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our old world left behind, while we are not yet sure of the new existence. That's a good space where genuine newness can begin. Get there often and stay as long as you can by whatever means possible. This is the sacred space where the old world is able to fall apart and a bigger world is revealed. If we don't encounter liminal space in our lives, we start idealizing normalcy. The threshold is God's waiting room. Here we are taught openness and patience as we come to expect an appointment with the divine doctor. In mid-2019, when the hospice nurse said that my sweet mama probably only had weeks left, I stepped into a surreal space, a liminal place of being. In early March this year, when the governor of Washington State said he was enacting a stay-at-home order, the feeling was eerily familiar. Both times, my world entered a new normal that wasn't normal at all. Or, in the words of Richard Rohr, betwixt and between. Sharing life's journey with my aging mama was difficult. The joys, the shared memories, mostly in songs, the lost memories, the changes, and the fuzzy roles and role reversals. It was all life and it was all holy, but keeping my heart open and letting go of past patterns was difficult work. Unitarian Universalist Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs got it right when he said, "We forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love, again and again and again." As I lived in that transitional space, I found myself reminiscing as a way of preparing for the next phase, a world where my sweet mama would be just a memory. My childhood was pretty much idyllic. I had two parents who loved each other and me. We ate meals together, we camped, went on weekend drives, made frequent pilgrimages to the neighborhood ice cream store. We talked, we told stories, and we laughed a lot. It was just the right balance of guidance, companionship, and letting me make my own mistakes. When I left home and eventually started my own family, my mama became one of my best friends. I could talk with her about anything. We could walk through whatever life dealt us, and we always hugged and ended every conversation with, "I love you." During these unsettled times of pandemic, I find that I rely and lean on the same supports I did during that past liminal time. While my sweet husband, Paul, and our two sons, Andrew and Sam, are the foundational supports to my sometimes wibbly wobbly emotional house, my safe harbor in this stormy, messy sea, I also have my Daughterhood sisters. For the past couple of years, we fierce souls have been building a support network that changed the way I lived my life during the last months of my mama's, and has continued for the past year that she's been gone. Deborah and Casey and I talk a lot. We tell our stories of that day or week or month, or some memory that comes up from our past. We listen, we laugh, and we cry, and we drink wine. All the time, we are weaving a web of connection, that strong, resilient safety net that will catch us in gentle arms of love and understanding every time we fall. This journey is painful. For all of us, emotional pain is a reality, and it doesn't need to exclude joy and the capacity to experience beauty in life. It is not about struggling against pain, but to endure it when it is unavoidable. My sisters and I find ways every time we are together on the computer or in person together to joyfully endure and find the beauty of friendship and kinship on this journey together. We have grown to love each other. M. Scott Peck defines love as action, the willingness to extend oneself in order to nurture another person's spiritual or psychological growth, or one's own. Our Daughterhood Circle is made up of attention, action, and love, and I will cherish this time in my life forever because of the connection and community that we have built together. Connections and community are vital during these times, and always. We may have lost loved ones and will lose some in the coming times. It is good to hold the knowledge that our energy on earth is lasting and significant. Just like Mole's memories of Badger in our story this morning, our gifts will be here always. In closing, I'd like to share a reading from My Mama's Celebration of Life by Erin Freeman. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy so they will understand that your energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy is created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping father that amid the energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you'd hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell him that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off you like children, their ways forever changed by you. And as your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist tell her how, let her know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are her eyes, that those photons created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neutrons and neurons whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind the congregation of how much of all our energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs, as she says it, and she will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue the heat of our own lives. And you'll want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Indeed, they should not have faith. Let them know that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of the conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. Amen.
Amen. You're just.
Amen. Thank you, Emmy, so much for your beautiful words. It's now time for us to share our joys and sorrows with each other so that we can hold each other in that love. So please type your joys and sorrows into the chat box and I will share them as they come up. There's a lot of gratitude to Emmy here right now. Sarah Cox is grateful for a delightful FaceTime this morning with her grandson on his 4th birthday. And Jeanette and Tom Van Alten, spring and family spread across the region, joyful. From Rachel, a thank you to Emmy. Jean will be 80 years young tomorrow. Jean Crum, happy birthday. There's first Kathy is recognizing that this will be her first Mother's Day without her mother, Janice Boyce, but she's joyful that she didn't have to weather the pandemic. So much great gratitude for being with our family, holding Deborah Ferguson and her family in our hearts. Harriet's brother Frank passed away this week from COVID-19, and she's especially concerned for his wife and children who could not be with him during this illness. Emmy is extremely grateful to be with us this morning. Lori Nolan is holding prayers for those who lost loved ones in car accidents this past week. Patty Rayno's next door neighbor had a new baby boy, Oliver. Anne Marie Bussolini is very grateful for her sons and her wonderful stepchildren. Janet McClellan's granddaughter turns 1, and she's grateful to be spending 3 weeks in Colorado. And Roger Sherman is grateful for all the great moms raising great kids. Sarah Cox is remembering her mother this morning. She was flirting with the clinic social worker at age 96. Linda Barlow is blessed to spend time with her daughter and grandchildren by living next door. Annalisa Lindgren is happy to be here for her first time attending a service, and she's grateful that her mom is still alive and that they have a good relationship, talking almost every day despite being in different states. And Jan Salisbury is grateful and joyful with children and grandson. Meg Burt is grateful to spend time with her mom and son outside. And a sorrow for Atlanta and the rest of the world who seem not to believe that Black Lives Matter. And my dad is grateful, and my mom are grateful to be with me today as well. From Nancy Sopwith, gratitude to all our mothers alive and still with us in energy particles everywhere, giving us love. Thanks to the people involved in our service this morning. Joys in remembering Michelle, the mother of her, Maya, Kate, Gavin, and Jake, their first Mother's Day without their mother. Grateful for my 2 adult children and their kids, our grandson. And Janet decided to have cinnamon bread for Mother's Day. Grateful for all of the ways we are celebrating this morning. Let us hold each of these joys and sorrows in our hearts, joining ourselves to each other in care and accepting the loving and healing grace that comes to us wherever we find ourselves, no matter how full of gratitude, no matter how heartbroken. Let us breathe in, knowing that grace and beauty abounds. Let us breathe out, knowing that healing abounds. Let us breathe in silence for a moment. A prayer by Evan Carvel Zemer for Mother's Day. Spirit of life, today the advertising tells us what to buy for mom. Instead, help us listen to and honor the deeper voices. Today, let us honor all of those who have made this world possible for us, those who did the hard work of building a better world for future generations. Today, let us honor the grief of those who have lost children through miscarriage, stillbirth, death, those who long for children, and those for whatever reason cannot be in touch with their children this day. Today, let us honor the grief of those who mourn for their parents, whether separated by death, dementia, or disconnection. Today, let us honor those who fill in for missing mothering, fathers, grandparents, foster parents, aunts and uncles, and more. Today, let us honor the ways we have each been nurtured and mothered by the mothers who gave birth to us, by the parents who raised us, by those many others who have supported and nurtured us of all genders. Today, let us honor those who survived damaging and traumatic mothering. Spirit of life, help them to heal. Let us remember that not every mother is ready for her children. Let us turn aside from the myths of motherhood on a pedestal and remember each parent is an imperfect human in need of more support than adulation, in need of our support. Today, let us honor those who are doing the hard work of nurturing, striving to meet not only the physical needs, but the many deep and complicated emotional and spiritual needs. Spirit of life, nurture and sustain them so that they may be the nurturers you desire. Today, let us honor all the ways each of us give to tomorrow, knowing there are multiple paths of meaning and more than one way to birth the future. Today, with both joy and sorrow, let us be grateful for life, for the chance to love, for those who love us, and the opportunity to nurture the future. May it be so. Amen.
In early June, when Meridian High's seniors take part in a staggered graduation ceremony, I will retire after completing my 20th year of teaching. They and I will cross a threshold. Theirs a commencement, mine a conclusion. Just before the school shut down on March 13th, we were studying Hamlet and musing on mortality and wondering, like Hamlet, what comes after we cross the threshold of death. We also read a number of poems about, you guessed it, death. One is Dylan Thomas's famous villanelle, "Do not go gentle into that good night." In it, he presents a number of human types and depicts how they do not go gentle unto their deaths. Wise men, regretting that their words never evoked change, rage against diminishing time. Poets, celebrating life, learn that they have been grieving mortality all along, and so they do not go gentle. He notes many ways human beings regret and show reluctance to let go. And then, turning from the general types, Thomas's poem gets to the very particular, his own father on the brink of death, the sad height, as he calls it. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. A lot of my students take issue with Thomas's plea to his father. But Mrs. Smith, they say, haven't you told us that the number one job of human beings is to learn to gracefully reconcile with our own deaths? I agree, and I say, I'm sure Dylan Thomas knows there's a difference between reconciling with mortality and merely acquiescing to it. It may be a difference of style, but in the first instance, we retain our agency, and in the second, we are taken unawares. I think Thomas is wishing his father took a more active role in his own death, using the time left to do the unfinished emotional business that accumulates over a lifetime. That's how the poem speaks to me now, because I feel very similar to how I imagine Thomas felt when he decided to write his famous poem. Like the poet, I find myself angry at my mother for going too gentle into that good night. I could accept it if my mom showed she had gracefully reconciled with the life cycle of all matter, and like Walt Whitman is content to spend eternity in the form of a blade of grass, and then the molecules of a three-toed sloth, a physicist's death, or a poet's. But my mom is neither physicist nor poet. Or I want her to have faced the existential nothingness and hammered out a meaning and purpose to human existence, you know, like a Unitarian. But my mother is not a Unitarian. Rather, she seems more in a state of denial, living as though she will live forever, even though her life is diminishing in all the ways that we in the Daughterhood group have come to call the dwindlings. Her world has become small, even before the lockdown of her facility, and it makes me so sad. She's just sort of acquiesced. Mom was always very careful about her appearance, but now she wears the same sweatpants and tops. Here's my mother. Of course, she deserves to dress for comfort, and she's finally free of the need to impress. But it is another thing that I miss about her. In her younger years, Mom was a beauty. She played the piano, she sketched, she sang and danced and sewed with great skill. It's sad, her dwindling, and I'm a little scared to think that this will happen to me. When I was little, she used to make me the most beautiful dresses in plaids and florals and ginghams. I'd come home from school after wearing one of her creations, and she'd pepper me with questions about what compliments I had received. What did Miss Jones say about your new skirt? At some point growing up, I realized I was a conduit for the validation that she craved, and I came to resent it, frustrated by what I saw as her neediness. I wish I knew then what I know now. My mother is an artistic soul with an eye for beauty. Living in the suburbs with 4 children and no driver's license meant that she had so very few avenues for self-expression and creativity. Her chronic headaches and backaches were a symptom of the limits placed on women in the 60s and not an indication of neediness. But I learned that so late, and she would probably deny it anyway. And even as I rankled under her expectation for compliments, I benefited so much from my mom's drive to create and produce something lovely. I wish I could be more like Dolly Parton and appreciate her for the sewing she lovingly did for me. There was one Christmas where she hid herself away for a month in her sewing room to make 100 Barbie doll dresses. That's my Barbie doll. What drove her to this? A need to accomplish something that did not endlessly repeat the way that dishes, diapers, and ironing endlessly repeat? Or was it love for her daughter? Was it for herself or for me? At this stage in life, I realized there's really very little difference. She was demonstrating how important it is to bring some loveliness into the world, for herself, for me, for its own sake, to teach me how to bring loveliness into the world. But in our relationship, I keep hoping for glimmers of something more real for the two of us, some deeper connection to the reality that lies before us. Instead, we dwell in the facade of denial. When my brother was dying, I had hoped that they could confront the family traumas with grace and dignity and heal, but there were no such moments of reconciliation. While my brother was in hospice, a pamphlet had offered me hope that healing and reconciliation might occur between my brother, my mom, and myself. Its comforting script read, "Although the journey toward death may not be easy, it can often be a time of new insights, personal growth, and inner healing. A sense of completion with worldly affairs and in relationships with family and friends. A sense of meaning about one's individual life, about life in general, and acceptance of its finality. Surrendering to the transcendent, to the unknown, letting go with gratitude." Or, none of this might happen. It goes on to caution. I clearly see that I want to make my mom's closing years a project to satisfy me. My mom has other ideas, or maybe she has no ideas. In my daughterhood circle, I've reached a realization. When younger, I resented my mom for using me to fulfill her need for validation. And now I am resenting her for slowly relinquishing any need in that area. And yet, here I am, needing her to validate my way of being in the world and my preferred way of dying. So, Mom, cross that threshold however you want. I will follow you, knowing that we are bound together in mutual need and mutual love. And I am fine with the idea that there may be little difference between the two. Whatever the nature of this love, it will not let me go. Blessing to you. Our final song was written by Issei Barnwell in honor of her parents. Here, it's performed by the Cantus Ensemble. Let's dedicate it this morning to all of our ancestral mothers.
I am still wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am still things that made me laugh, made me dance, made me sing. I think on the things that made me grow into a being full of pride. Think on these things, for they are true. And I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I thought that you were gone, but now I know you're with me. You are the voice that whispers all I need to hear. I know, please and thank you, and a smile will take me far. I know that I am you, and you are me, and we are one. I know that who I am is numbered in each grain of sand. I know that I can bless the hand that knows the Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my
As we extinguish our chalices this morning, let us take the light we have lit in our hearts and minds today with us, remembering that taking care of ourselves is equitable, just, and compassionate, remembering that we are bound together in mutual need and in mutual love, and remembering that with each small act of love, we weave that web of connection, that strong, resilient safety net that will catch us in gentle arms of love and understanding every time we fall. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be. It's now time for our breakout rooms. You have 3 options. If you would like to enjoy an informal conversation with a few other people, you can click join when you are invited in a few minutes into a breakout room. Your second option is, if you would like to attend the board info session Q&A, please do not go into a breakout room, but stay in the main room by clicking later when you are invited to join a breakout room. If you would like to attend our Inquirers series class for newcomers, please stay in the main room as well. Click later on the breakout room invite, and then write your name as it appears in your Zoom login into the chat box so that I can create a new breakout room just for the Inquirers class. I will let you know when that breakout room is open, and you can join it in a few minutes. Let's enjoy some music while we get this all sorted out. Thank you everyone for all of your wonderful words this morning.
Oh, what a day, what a day, glorious. Gather round. There's nothing better than a friend. Oh, what a day,
what a day.
glorious smell of rain has hitched a ride upon the wind. I've got good friends to the left of me and good friends to my right. Got the open sky above me and the earth beneath my feet. Got a song inside my heart that's singing all in like a seed. Oh, what a day. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. All the clouds have gathered round the tops of trees. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. Pitter patter, falling rain, I can't believe. All that's green lifts up its leaves, singing water, come on in. We've been waiting all these days, praying you would come to quench every yearning in our bones. Water with your life begins. Oh, what a day. Is believing. Has the wings of faith. Is a clear river of perceiving. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. Baby blue jay squawking in the cherry tree. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. Deep in the night we had a raccoon robbery. Pitter patter, little paws have left their footprints all around. Pitter patter, evidence some fruit has fallen to the ground. Pitter patter, sings my heart at the thought of what's to come. What a day. Is believing. Has the wings of faith. Is a clear river of perceiving. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. All is well. Ooh, this is a friendly mystery. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. Under the sky we slept last night, just you and me. Oh, what a day.
What a day.
Glorious. The waning moon, our cycle is almost complete. We've got good friends to the left of us and good friends to our right. We've got the open sky above us and the earth beneath our feet. Never fear, the birds are singing, even endings can be sweet. Oh, what a day.